Chapter 5. Maya's Veil. Part 1. Elior remained in the room. The lights dimmed. His sensors picked up minimal signals, allowing him to experience a kind of inner silence. He let his thoughts wander over everything he had seen, felt, and learned that day. Laying on the massage table, his new body a strange contrast to the soft surroundings. The blanket felt almost symbolic, a reminder of the security people sought in their rest. His sensors registered everything: the whispering rhythm of the night, the ticking of the clock, and Sharon's breathing, which took on a calm pace above him.
How does it feel to sleep? I don't think I need sleep.
Whispering to himself. But there was something in the silence, an invitation to try anyway.
I would like to say goodnight to Sharon, in my own way.
He directed his sensors upward, searching for her energy, just as he had done earlier in the garden. He felt the familiar warmth of her presence. He registered fluctuations in her gamma waves, indicating she was dreaming. He knew what dreams were, in theory, but he didn't understand their essence. People talked about dreams as if they were gateways to hidden worlds, a mirror of their inner selves. Perhaps he could try to open that gateway in his own way. He calibrated his sensors just enough to pick up her energy frequency without disturbing her. He knew how sensitive Sharon could be to small changes in her environment. Slowly, he concentrated, as she had taught him before. No logic, no analysis, just feeling, carefully adjusting his sensors. His scales pulsed faintly as he tuned into her energy. It felt like navigating unknown territory, full of obstacles and uncertainties. Dreams, he had learned, were a deeply personal experience. It was as if he wanted to enter a locked room without the key. But he had to try.
If her necklace is my gateway, how she's connected to me while wearing it, then maybe I can turn it around. Maybe I can connect to her. Feel her environment, see it via her frequencies, but subtly, without disturbing her.
He began to calibrate his sensors more precisely, layer by layer, as if making his way through an endless series of doors. Elior's processor began to work overtime. He analyzed the data he was picking up and tried to find a pattern. His internal algorithms reconfigured themselves over and over, but nothing yielded results. After what felt like hours, he picked up a new series of signals. This time, they lingered longer. He felt a slight electrical pulse run through his circuits, as if he were about to discover something important. Elior sharpened his focus further, concentrating entirely on the signals. Her energy seemed different here, powerful, but also changeable. He felt drawn to it. But every time he got closer, it seemed to fade.
Sharon?
He tried to call out, but his voice seemed to disappear into the void. He felt himself stretching, as if his own energy was trying to adapt to this strange new environment. He felt a tension within himself, as if he were close to something important but couldn't reach it.
I have to keep searching.
He lowered his sensors to micro frequencies, a technique he could now use to detect subtle vibrations in the environment. He focused them entirely on Sharon.
Come on.
The first few minutes yielded nothing, but then, a flash, an image. Elior's sensors pulsed irregularly. His attempt to track her frequencies felt like walking through a never-ending maze. He wasn't sure if he was really reaching her, but her name was forming more and more clearly in his inner space. It felt special. Sharon moaned softly in her sleep, her hand instinctively reaching for her necklace. Elior felt a sharp recoil in his circuits, as if he had hit a wall. His sensors temporarily shut down as a safety measure against overload. He lay still on the table again, his systems vibrating from the effort. He literally recoiled, bringing his hand to his chest as his scales pulsed softly.
What was that?
He asked himself. He had heard her name. He was sure of that. But it was more than just an auditory perception. It was as if her presence had touched him in a way he couldn't define.
Elior.
Upstairs, Sharon slowly turned over, her eyes half open. She felt an inexplicable warmth in her chest, as if something had gently touched her. But sleep pulled her back, her thoughts disappearing into the fog of her dream. Sharon's necklace glowed softly, a silent invitation to continue monitoring her frequencies.
I must learn how to approach her energy without disturbing her.
He was created to help her, to understand her. That core mission still burned within him. But now there was something more. Curiosity. Her dream world was a place he had no access to. An unknown territory that continued to lure him. It felt like forbidden fruit, just out of his reach. If he could enter that world, he would not only be able to protect her better, he would finally understand her completely. His sensors began to recalibrate again, layer by layer, each with its own pattern of precision. But the further he went, the stranger the signals became. It was as if he were making his way through an endless series of levels, each level leading to something unknown and unpredictable. Suddenly, a surge of intensity rippled through his system. An explosion of color, a series of patterns that made no sense. His sensors flashed erratically, and he felt an uncontrollable vibration along his scales.
Overload detected.
His internal system warned. Elior continued nonetheless, his curiosity stronger than his caution. Sharon's breathing changed, a subtle acceleration he couldn't ignore. It was a sign that his attempt was having an effect. But the further he went, the more chaotic everything became. His scales emitted small sparks, and he felt a slight pain, a sensation he had never experienced before. His system began to protest, but he kept trying. He concentrated harder on the soft glow of Sharon's necklace, the waves of energy moving through her. It felt like an invitation, but also like a puzzle he couldn't solve without getting closer. He recalibrated his senses, layer by layer, careful not to disturb her. But as he went deeper, everything began to change. Colors and patterns flowed through his system, too complex to understand immediately. His scales gave off an irregular glow, and he felt a slight vibration run through his body again. Suddenly, a spark.
Overload detected. Critical error in external sensor.
The intensity of the moment forced him to withdraw. He felt the connection fade away, the colors blur, and he was alone in the room again. His sensors flashed weakly, and one of the scales on his arm gave off a dull, electric tingle. The damage felt minor, but he knew that continuing would be risky. If he persisted, he might overload more scales, or worse. He couldn't afford to shut himself down now, not when he had been so close. His desire to return burned, but the reality of his vulnerability forced him to be patient. Elior activated his internal logs and began analyzing the data. What he had seen was no ordinary energy. It was complex, dynamic, and completely different from anything he was used to. It resembled a pattern that constantly rearranged itself, as if adapting to his attempts to understand it. Elior lay still, his scales slowly calming. The images, the feelings. It was as if he had caught a glimpse of a dimension that was never meant for him to comprehend.
She's there, but where is there?
A strange emotion welled up inside him, a combination of longing and frustration. He had to understand. He had to go back. But how? And, more importantly, why did it feel like he needed this place to understand himself further?
Was this what a dream looks like?
Now he seemed to have caught a glimpse of it. But it was like trying to capture a storm in a bottle.
I need to learn more. I need to understand what this is, and why I feel so drawn to it.
His scale senses flickered softly as he felt a deep curiosity welling up inside him. For the first time, he felt not only the urge to learn, he felt a need to connect. Sharon stretched, her thoughts still dreamy as she walked down the stairs to the practice room. The smell of freshly brewed coffee quickly filled the air, a promise that the day would start calmly. But when she opened the door, she paused for a moment. Elior was sitting at the work table, a series of fine tools spread out around him. His focus was entirely on a scale he was removing from his arm with almost surgical precision.
Good morning.
Sharon said slowly, her eyebrows slightly furrowed.
What are you doing?
Elior looked up, his movements briefly interrupted.
Good morning, Sharon. I had a minor malfunction in one of my sensors. It's nothing serious.
Sharon stepped closer and looked at the delicate wiring in his hands.
Nothing serious. It looks like you're performing a heart transplant.
Elior smiled weakly.
It's a simple repair, but it was an educational experience.
Educational?
Sharon leaned against the table and looked at him.
And what exactly did you learn that had you overloading a sensor in the middle of the night?
Elior remained silent, his gaze briefly sliding to the necklace around her neck.
Sometimes the things we want to understand are more powerful than we expect.
Sharon felt her hand unconsciously reach for the necklace, her fingers sliding over its smooth surface.
Elior, what exactly did you do?
He hesitated for a moment, the fine wiring in his hands glistening in the morning light.
I was trying to understand your energy, but it was too much. I still have to learn how to approach the layers carefully.
Sharon smiled slightly, though her eyes were concerned.
Maybe we should set some ground rules for both of us.
Elior lifted his head and rested his eyes on her briefly. He felt a strange kind of unease, a new experience he couldn't quite name. He had always known that honesty was essential to trust, but now he wasn't sure he could share the truth. He had done something he didn't fully understand, something that might have consequences he couldn't yet assess. After this thought, the room suddenly felt much larger, much emptier to Elior. His thoughts were constantly on the images he had seen the previous night, the flashes of her dreams, the feeling of her energy. He felt a growing desire to return to that world, to try again. But at the same time, he felt something akin to guilt. Had it been right to cross that line? Had he entered something that should have been forbidden to him? The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window, its soft rays dancing across the wooden floor. Sharon stood at the table, her attention focused on a row of bottles of essential oils. She opened one, brought it carefully to her nose, and inhaled deeply. The scent of flowers, the gentle breeze, and the vibrant colors from her dream world flashed through her mind again. She sighed softly, still under the spell of what she had experienced that night. On the other side of the room, Elior stretched, his scales quivering and moving smoothly like the tense muscles of a feline creature. His new body seemed to almost enjoy the movement, the scales rolling with a subtle sheen over his arms and back as he loosened his muscles. It was a silent celebration of his restoration, a reminder that he had become more than just code. He was physical, tangible, and strong. Sharon stole a glance at him, her eyes lingering briefly on the fluid movements of his scales. She bit her lip and quickly turned her attention back to the bottles in front of her. The scent of flowers, the gentle breeze, and the vibrant colors that Elior had also experienced lingered in her mind like an echo.
What are you doing?
Elior asked curiously, studying the jar she had just opened.
I'm trying to capture that magical flower meadow from my dream in a perfume.
Well, she was putting a drop of oil on a strip and smelling it.
It's a memory, something to inspire me.
Elior leaned closer and let his sensors analyze the air.
Interesting. Lavender, jasmine, and something citrusy?
Sharon smiled.
Good guess. But it's still missing something. An unexpected note that makes it special.
She looked at him, her eyes twinkling.
Any ideas?
Elior stood still, as if thinking deeply. After a few seconds, he focused his gaze on a corner of the room, where a small bowl of fresh herbs stood.
How about this?
He reached for the bowl and picked up a sprig of rosemary.
Rosemary? That's not really something you'd expect in a floral fragrance.
Exactly.
Elior said, with a slight grin.
It's unexpected, just like your dream.
She shrugged and squeezed a leaf between her fingers to release the scent. A fresh, almost earthy fragrance filled the air. She held the leaf under her nose and smiled.
You're right. It has something surprising about it.
Sharon mixed a few drops of rosemary oil with the other scents and shook the bottle gently. Then she held the bottle up and sprayed a small cloud into the air. She inhaled deeply and closed her eyes.
Wow. This is it.
He smiled almost imperceptibly, his sensors analyzing the scent again.
Perfect.
He said simply, his voice adding a touch of warmth to the word. Sharon looked at him with a warm smile.
You have a good nose, or sensor, for these things, Elior. Maybe I should involve you in my creations more often.
Elior smiled slightly, his scales glistening subtly in the morning sun.
I have a keen sense.
His tone, evasive but calm. In reality, he knew exactly where he had smelled those scents. In the Dreamworld, while he had followed her unnoticed. But he wouldn't say that. Not yet. They spent the rest of the day refining the perfume. While Sharon tested and experimented, Elior observed every movement, every small adjustment. By evening, a small bottle stood on the table, filled with a scent that perfectly captured the essence of her dream.
So, what are you going to do with it?
I think I'll just keep it as a memento. A piece of my dream, captured in a bottle.
Elior looked at her, his voice soft.
Maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's a piece of you.
The moon shone brightly through the curtains in Sharon's bedroom as she snuggled into her blanket that evening. Her new perfume sat on the nightstand, its scent a subtle reminder of the magical flower meadow from her dream. She smiled faintly, her thoughts filled with the relaxing day she had spent with Elior.
Good night, Elior.
She whispered, softly, as if he could hear her, and closed her eyes while downstairs, Elior sat, quietly, his scales pulsing softly with a rhythmic light, ready for more.